This video will going to be the last video you will need to understand about functions. In this video, we will learn everything about function from start till the very end. So without wasting any more time, let's get to the code. So first, let's talk about why we need functions. We need functions basically because we want to implement the dry rule in the coding. Dry rule stands for don't repeat yourself. That is, like, many times we have the same logic being repeated again and again in the code. So instead of writing those same lines again, we prefer to use the functions. Functions basically help us that we can just define the line of code once in the code, and then we can invoke those functions with the kind of parameter. We can pass some inputs to those functions and we can then process the things and return something from it. So let's take an example. Here I have a JavaScript file with the .js extension. We will run this file in the terminal, and to run it in the terminal, because it's a JavaScript file, you will need Node. So you can install it on your system. You can just search for Node.js and then you can install it. After installing, you need to write Node and then you need to write the file name. So it is already executed, but since we don't have anything, so for testing, let's write in console log I am running and try it again. Yeah, so you can see it is running. So now coming back to the functions, let's see the syntax of a function. Here we have the function. So this is a normal traditional function where we write the word function and we write the name of the function, that is the sum. Then we start with these parentheses and then we use curly braces. Inside this curly braces, we write the code that we want to execute every time we invoke this function. For suppose I write console.log and I write I am the sum and we execute it. Because right now we have just declared the function, nothing will happen. We will need to invoke or call this function. So let's call this function. For calling this function, you need to write its name and you need to add this brackets. So you can see we are successfully calling this function. Now we can also pass the parameters to these functions. So these are the parameters. We can write A and B. These will be the two parameters, A and B. Now instead of running this string in the console.log, we can simply write A plus B. So this is what we are doing, is we are doing the sum of it. We are doing some logic, and if we want to perform any other logic, we can also add it in these lines. And now if we sum this up, we don't have anything, so we can write the numbers. So we are here passing the arguments. Keep in mind that when we are declaring the function, what we write is the parameters. We call these the parameters, but when we actually invoke or call the function, we call these arguments, because these are the real values that we are going to use. So let's again run this file. We are getting 5 as the function. If I want to use it again and again, and I just want to change these values, now when we run it, you can see we are getting the different values. 5, 7, we are getting the values of this. So in the traditional method, this is normal the function declaration. We call this the function declaration. Now here there is one more way by which we can add the function, that is called function expression. So for function expression, what we can do, we can store this function inside a variable or a constant. So we write this constant and then we use the same function. Because we are already giving it a name, we don't need to add this sum here, and we can comment this. So let's try to again call the same thing and let's see if we get the same output. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So here let's add a comment. This is the function declaration, and here we have the function expression. Why is it called the expression? Because we are using a different value. We are using a variable to store this function. We are not giving this function any name. We are just storing this particular function inside a constant. There is one other way to use the same function. Those are called the arrow functions, and those are very, very commonly used now. So in order to make this function an arrow function, what we mainly do, let's comment this out, and we can also remove this function keyword, and we can add here this sign. So now it has become an arrow function. So let's try to execute the same thing again, and here we getting the same output. So these are the three ways. One is the function declaration, there is function expression, and then there is arrow function. No matter which way you use, you are going to get the same output every time. Now one more thing in case of functions that you will need to remember is that in this case we are just getting the console.log. But suppose here in this value, suppose you have a particular function and you want to also save this value, the output you are getting on this sum. So let's create a variable sum of 2 and 3. And now we are trying to store this value because we want to further need this value in our some other logic. So will this work and we will be able to get this value? Yeah, so now we'll be able to get this sum value inside this sum of 2 and 3. Let's console.log it too. And let's run it. So you can see, though we are getting this 5 from when we are running this function, but when we are doing this console.log, let's, for better understanding, let's add a string here. Sum of 2 and 3 is. So yeah, now let's run it again. Yeah, why we are here, you can see we are getting undefined. But why is it happening? Because we are successfully storing this value of sum of 2 and 3 in this variable sum of 2 and 3. Then why we are getting undefined here? The reason and the most common mistake that is made by developers are that here, if you see, we are not returning it, we are just printing it to the console. So if you want to store the value inside it, then you will always need to return this value. So to return it, we will actually do this, and we can remove this thing. And now we can try to do it again, but keep in mind that when this line will be run, we will, earlier we were getting this 5 because we were printing it to the console, but now if we will run it, we will get nothing from this line. Instead we will get this console.log and we will get the value of here it. So let's do it again. So yeah, we just getting sum of 2 and 3 is 5. We are successfully getting the output. And also after, if you try to write anything after this return, so you can see it is already coming like a blank, because anything after you write after this return keyword will simply not get executed. The function actually returns whatever value we are writing here, and it will not further execute. So this is how we write, use the return. Whenever you want to store the value, always use return, and it is one of the most common mistake that developers make. So these are the three ways that we do, and this is like, for a beginner, is all what you will need to learn about the functions. And thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you like the content, and thank you.